right, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of the Lunacy podcast. My name is Tony. I'm here with Dave. And if you listened to our last podcast, I'm sure you either enjoyed it or you hated it, one of the two. First, Dave is going to talk about some corrections from last podcast. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Dave and let him go with that.
Yeah, so the only correction that I have is, for whatever reason, I decided to refer to Fernando as being Colombian. He's actually Brazilian.
Yeah.
And also his name, he's apparently decided to go by Maximiano. I think I said that right.
Yes.
Other than that, that's it.
All right, Maximiano, huh? That's his new name. Let's talk now about, after the corrections are over, let's talk about the game last week against the Red Bulls. I don't have a lot to say about it because it kind of sucked.
Yeah, I mean, I think my first thought of it is that it was basically what I expected it to be. You know, we had a completely different back line. In that back line, there were two rookies who had not played yet. Brent Coleman, who had played, I believe it was 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And Mark Birch, who played a little bit the previous game after Mears went out. Forgot to actually check to see what time. I think it was like 25 minutes or something like that. To be perfectly honest, I think he's our weakest fullback. Mm-hmm. So, it was what it was. I don't think defensively anyone was shocked by 3 goals.
Yeah.
It was pretty disappointing, though, on the offensive side. The exact same starting lineup in the front that we had, aside from the lack of Rasmus Schuler. And I was just really disheartened by pretty much all of it. I've always been a pretty heavy supporter of Sam Nicholson. I didn't see anything special from him. Ibarra, I didn't see anything super special from him. Finlay was pretty flat. And Ramirez, I think, has been questionable at best all season so far.
Let's get into that. Let's get into the Ramirez discussion, because you seem to think that he needs to be benched for a while. I mean, and I can see why, because he's really not doing what he should be doing at that striker position.
Yeah, I got into it with a guy on Twitter, and my position is on forwards. I don't particularly want them to be a team player. I like a forward that is kind of all about me. Mm-hmm. He's got an ego.
Yep.
He's kind of a ball buster.
Mm-hmm.
And I expect him to do some of that hold-up play that Christian has done this season. But overall, I want their focus to be on putting the ball in the net.
Yeah.
And, outrunning the defense, getting past that back line, and putting the ball in the net.
Yeah, being selfish.
Yeah. And, he hasn't been that at all this year. He's participated in, my count was 3 goals.
Okay.
He's made key passes in 3 goals.
Yeah.
Which is good, because there were 3 goals, and we've won both games by a goal.
Yeah.
And he happened to participate in a goal in each game. But at the same time, where is his hungriness to actually score a goal? I haven't really seen it. And I definitely didn't see it against New York.
Yeah.
I was just bored out of my mind with his movement against New York. I haven't seen a whole lot of analysis suggesting that he's very good. So even with my layman's viewpoint, it seems like the analysts who know what they're talking about seem to agree for the most part.
Yeah.
With that said, shifting gears slightly, Adrian Heath went out of his way after that game to throw the players under the bus, to say the least. Yeah. And same individual on Twitter that I got into the discussion with about Christian. Mm-hmm. Him and I were going back and forth about that as well. And, it's one of those things where I get it. What he said, I think, was completely valid. The fact that there was no motivation to win. Yes. They were waiting to be beaten.
Lackluster is what they were.
I get it.
Yeah.
I think it was completely valid. But at the same time, is it productive? Is it useful in getting the team to actually play? I mean, he did the hashtag Heath out. And I was like, well, I don't know if I'm going to go that
Heath
far.
out already? Oh, man.
I mean, he's English. The English tend to be a little blunt.
Oh, yeah.
So, in the heat of the moment at the end of a game, you have a tendency when your team looked as poor as we did, to maybe say some things that 10 minutes later you're going to think, maybe I should have said that.
Yeah.
Was it valid? Yes. Was it necessary? Probably not.
No.
I'm sure he's had conversations with the team.
Sure.
With those specific players that he was referring to, because luckily he didn't actually state who he was talking about. I'm sure he's had discussions, and it might happen again, and it might not. But it was said.
Yes.
Move on.
And there are certain players I know in professional sports who will look at a manager or coach saying something like that, and they will pick their game up. And there's also certain players in sports who the manager says something like that, and they totally just shut down. They're just like, right, that was cool. You don't bring it out in the press that you think we sucked.
Right.
So it depends on your team. And if that gets the team motivated, that's great. If it doesn't get the team motivated, then you're kind of going down a slippery slope of what are you going to do next? Are you going to keep doing this every week that we have a bad game, throwing them underneath the bus? Or are you going to start, praising the ones that need to be praised and, hammering the ones that need to be hammered? Everybody on that team has a different personality, and you've got to figure out a way to get to every person on that team. I've seen so many professional sports where a coach or manager can't get through to a certain player, and all of a sudden it just turns into a train wreck, and that player is either traded or released, or that coach is traded or released because they just couldn't handle the situation right. And then that player gets a new coach, and all of a sudden he's doing well because that coach knows how to reach him.
Right.
And hopefully Adrian Heath doing this reached most of the team.
Right.
That's what we hope.
Right.
But we'll see today. If they don't play better today, then we know that didn't work. So what else is he going to do?
Well, and with that, piggybacking that a little bit, it's interesting that we have to play Atlanta today.
Yes.
Because Atlanta's a really good team.
They are.
So I say, if they don't play well today, is it because of Heath's comments, or is it because it's just Atlanta?
Yeah.
And on top of that, I think a lot of us remember the last time Atlanta came to town.
Yes, we do.
It was not a pleasant experience.
No.
The weather and the game. And so, you sit there, and I was thinking about that myself. I'm like, well, what if they don't turn in a good performance today? Well, is that reflective of Heath's coaching methods, their lack of response, positive response to his statements last week? Or is it just because Atlanta's damn good?
Yeah, we talked about it last week. They built their team through international players, using that money, getting some big, studs into their lineup to be good right away.
Right.
And they are good right away, And the only thing I think we have going for us today is the fact that it's cold. If people, I'm sure a lot of people here listening to this podcast are from Minnesota, so that we got snow and it's going to be cold today. If you're listening from an outstate, we got some snow last night. It's going to be, the wind chills are going to probably be in the teens, I think, by game time.
Game time, yeah, probably.
So, Atlanta plays indoors. So, they're not used to it. Our guys, I think, are used to it because we do play outdoors in the beginning and the end of the season. So, we're a little bit used to it. But I think the weather's going to be a big factor today.
Yeah, I think it will be too. The nice thing is we have, on my wish list for a starting lineup, we have a Minnesotan.
Yes.
We have a Scandinavian.
Yep.
We have an Englishman. We have a Swiss guy.
Yep.
All of those guys. Are at least some cold.
Yeah.
Of course, the other half are not at all.
But think about Atlanta's lineup. They've got how many guys are from down Dominicans and down South America. I think most of their starting lineup is from South America, isn't it? Or the Caribbean countries?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Gressel's he's European. German, right?
It's German.
Parkhurst in defense, he's from the U.S. I can't think of where. And then Laurentowicz, I'm actually not sure where he's from. But yeah, everybody else.
Everybody else is from that
Latin.
area. So
Latin, South America.
Now, here, I'm going to ask you a question, Dave, because Dave's going to the game tonight. I'm not. How pissed off are you going to be if you have to sit through this game? Wind chills in the teens, crappy weather, and they put out a lackluster effort. If they totally just kind of lay down for Atlanta.
If it's just like last year?
Yeah. It's a cold day, so you want to see them play hard.
Yeah, I'll be pretty pissed.
Yeah.
If it's like last year, for sure.
Yeah.
because I don't think that team exists anymore. So the idea that they would do the exact same performance, would piss me off. And if they lose, I won't be that pissed.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll be disappointed.
But here's my deal with going to games like this. You are choosing to spend a night out in the cold. Okay, usually when you go to a game, soccer, anything outdoors, right? If it's a nice day and you get to spend a nice day out in the sun, having a cold beverage, watching your team, if they lose, at least part of the day was good because you got to spend it outside, hanging out. These types of games, though, if your team loses, like, bad, that's a double whammy because you spent all that 2 hours in the cold, and then you watch them lose.
Right.
So you feel even worse after a loss like this, I would say.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's last year at 6-1, the fact that it was the first ever game at home made up for it.
Yeah.
And it was prototypical Minnesota weather.
Yeah.
And you kind of got over the fact that they sucked as bad as they did. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I guess that's true. I've gone to one Packer game at Lambeau Field that was late December, and I don't even remember if they won.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago, but the sense that it was Reggie White's last game.
Yep.
So again, the circumstances were a situation where it was cold, it was freezing. I remember that, but the circumstances of the fact that it was one of their best players ever retiring into his last game. It was snowy, so it's a snowy Lambeau Field.
Yep. Yeah.
To the point where I don't even remember what happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with you. If I go out in the cold and it's windy and I have to listen to John whine.
That's one of the reasons I'm not going tonight. Well, I have dinner plans tonight, but another reason I'm not going is because I knew Johnny was going to go, and I don't want to listen to him whine in the cold while we're watching this team get their butts kicked.
Right.
Plus, drinking beer out in the cold, it's kind of like it's not that fun, really. It's just not a good time.
Yeah, that reminds me of John and I were actually just talking about this last night, where last year we went to Surly's pregame.
Yeah.
And we're standing outside.
Yeah.
And they've got these fire things set up.
Yeah, the fire pits, right.
All of a sudden, we look down, and our cups of beer have ice in them.
Yep.
And we're just like, my God, we're going to a soccer game.
You weren't drinking it fast enough. That's the problem.
Apparently. And so, exactly, beer is much better when it's warm.
Yes.
I mean, when the weather is warm. Well, I like warm beer, too, actually. Tepid, I believe, is what the Brits call it. But, yeah, cold beer on a cold day.
Yeah, not good for it.
Yeah, it's not a good mixture.
And I should mention, because I didn't mention it before, we are doing this podcast from Omni Brewing in Maple Grove. They have graciously let us use their barrel room to tape this podcast on a Saturday afternoon, which is very nice of them. They have a beer called Lunacy, which, that's our podcast name. So
it could become our sponsor beer, right?
Yeah, it could become our sponsor beer.
However, it's 8% alcohol.
Which, it'll kill you. I mean, after like 2, you're dead.
Yeah, unless you've got food in your stomach, it's probably not a good idea.
And they have, I've been coming to Omni ever since they opened. I really love this brewery. They have some great stuff. They have this raspberry milkshake IPA, which sounds gross when you think about it, but it could be like, when you pour it, it looks cloudy and it looks kind of like dingy, but it tastes so fantastic. So
I haven't had that one.
It's good, if you can find it.
The Shantytown Brown.
But you're having
top
right now.
notch. I'm having that right now.
And I'm having their Hefeweizen, and I love their Hefeweizen here. They have a Lake Day. They've got all these great beers here. Their brewery is fantastic. Small, intimate place. You can bring your dogs here if you want to do that.
There's one here.
There's one here. I've heard the barking. They've got a nice outdoor patio. They've got food trucks here. They've been, ever since I brought it up to them that we'd like to do a podcast in here, they've been so kind to us, saying, hey, just come on in, do it. We love you. Come in and do a podcast. No big deal.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah.
When we came up with the idea to do a podcast from a brewery, I kind of thought that maybe it wouldn't work out. Like, they'd maybe just be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And then it would never happen.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's really great.
we'd like to do this at some other breweries too